Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a pumpkin pie. Now, no Thanksgiving dinner would be complete without a traditional pumpkin pie. And pumpkin pies are super easy to make. You literally just stir the ingredients together or put it in the oven and bake it. I mean, it's no big deal at all. Mine is a little bit different because of a mistake that my mother made years and years ago. When I was a little kid, we were baking pumpkin pies together for Thanksgiving, and we were going to take them to my granny's house when we got together with my mom's family. And she accidentally used brown sugar instead of white sugar in the pie. Don't know how she made that mistake, but it was a mistake. She realized it when she put them in the oven, and she was all panicked because she was afraid they wouldn't come out, and they were so much better. So you need 3/4 of a cup of packed brown sugar, or if you don't have brown sugar, you can use regular granulated white sugar, which is what this recipe originally called for. And if you don't pack it, if you just do a loose cup, that's pretty much 3/4 of a cup packed, and it makes it a little bit easier to mix up. You need a can of pumpkin. Brands are not super important, but you do want to make sure it says 100% pumpkin. Nowadays they sell pumpkin pie mix that has squash in it and stuff like that. You don't want the mix, and I don't want the squash mixed in mine. I want a real pumpkin pie. So I look for the 100% pumpkin. Definitely don't get the mix, because if you get the mix, it's already going to have spices and stuff in it. And for spices, you can do a teaspoon of cinnamon, about a half teaspoon of ginger and nutmeg, a little pinch of cloves, a little pinch of allspice, and you need a half a teaspoon of salt. Or you can go buy you some pumpkin pie spice and use 2 teaspoons of that and a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, pumpkin pie spice does not have cloves in it. And one of the things that I dislike about frozen pumpkin pies or the deli pumpkin pies is that they just have no flavor in them. And cloves have a very strong flavor, so you're only going to use about 1/4 teaspoon anyway. You don't have to have those. You can use a couple teaspoons of the pumpkin pie spice, and it saves you a ton of money. You're not buying 4 jars or 4 little cans of spices, and I know they're expensive. But if you want that little extra kick, you can get this one, and then you can get some cloves. And I have a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. You don't want the sweetened condensed milk, you want the evaporated. It's, the plain evaporated milk. No sugar added, just the milk. And I have 2 eggs. So I'm going to start by mixing my eggs up here a little bit. Now, this pie is going to be thickened by the eggs and the milk. It doesn't have anything in it to thicken it. You don't need to add any flour or anything like that. You do want to preheat your oven to somewhere between 400 and 425. It just kind of depends on your oven. Go ahead and add your milk into your eggs, and then add in your pumpkin. And we're going to bake it at that hot temperature, the 400 or 4. You might even want to go up to 425. It kind of depends on your oven. Some ovens are hotter. This new one that I've got is a little hotter. So I started mine at 400. In my old oven, I started it at 425. And you're going to bake it in that really hot oven for about 15 minutes. That kind of sets the pie. And then you're going to turn it down to 325 to 350. In my old oven, I used 350. In this one, I used 325. Mix your pumpkin in with your eggs and your milk just a little bit. And that's your wet ingredients. Again, kind of adjust it, based on your oven. You don't want to cook this too fast, and you certainly don't want to burn it. Now I'm going to add my spices into my sugar. And this makes it a little easier to mix once you add it in to the liquid. And regular granulated sugar works just fine in this recipe. That was the pie recipe that we used for generations, and this was just kind of one of those mistakes that worked out. I would say I probably wasn't more than 9 or 10 when we started making them with the brown sugar, and I've been making them that way ever since. I like it better. The pie has a little bit better color, and the molasses in the brown sugar, it's not much, but I think it gives it just a little bit more flavor. And you could probably, if you had molasses and you had regular old white sugar, you could add maybe just a tablespoon of molasses to it. You wouldn't want to add a whole lot. And you can use regular or dark, you know, the lighter or the dark brown sugar, it doesn't matter. But mixing those spices in that brown sugar will, like I said, just make it easier to mix into your pumpkin and your milk and eggs. And then put that in there and give it a little stir. And you don't need to mix this with a mixer or anything like that. And in fact, I wouldn't mix it with a mixer or anything like that. It's going to break your eggs down too much, and your pie is not going to have the right texture. Okay, and once you mix that up, you need a 9-inch pie shell. Unbaked, don't prick it. Once you make your pie shell, put it back in the fridge to keep it cold. Keeping it cold before you add your filling will help keep your pie crust from being soggy. If you prick it, your pie is going to stick to the bottom of your pie pan. So you don't want it pricked or anything like that, just a 9-inch deep dish pie shell. And this is an extra deep pan that Melinda had got me. It's deeper than my regular Pyrex, and I like it for this pie because it keeps it from boiling over in my oven. If you're using a regular deep dish pie pan, this is a good recipe to stick that cookie sheet underneath the pie to keep it from getting all in the oven, because sometimes they will boil over. When my kids were growing up, I always baked my pies the day before Thanksgiving. And because I was busy on Thanksgiving cooking the turkey and the dressing and the sweet potatoes and all that stuff, on Thanksgiving Day, they would get up in the morning and have pumpkin pie for breakfast. And that kind of turned into a tradition in our house. And I still do that. I still have pumpkin pie for breakfast on Thanksgiving morning because it's just absolutely delicious. But that's all there is to it. And you can see in this extra deep pan, there's no danger of this boiling over. But in your regular ones, it could. You want to start it 400 to 425, 15 minutes. Then turn your oven down to 325 to 350, depending on your oven. And you want to cook it for another 45 to 50 minutes until it is completely set. It'll actually maybe start to crack a little bit around the edges. It'll be golden brown, and it will be set. It won't be all jiggly and wiggly, you know, like how when you do this, you shouldn't see that wave in the top if you touch it. It's not going to be super firm like a cake, but you shouldn't be able to see a wave. So let's put this in the oven, and we're going to take the one out that's already in there. Okay. Now this one is in my regular Pyrex pie plate, and it's a deep dish pie plate. And what I did with it is I actually took the edge of my pie crust and kind of made a little bit of an extra lip around the edge of it, like raised it up. And I don't know if you can see that in the video or not, but that helped keep this one from boiling over. Because in a regular deep dish pie plate, it's actually up over the top. My pie crust is, it's like ½ an inch thick. It's got a lip around the edge of the pie plate, at least that thick. And if I hadn't had that, I would have had pie in my oven. Now, how you can tell it's done, it is of course golden brown, and it is starting to form some little cracks. Once you start to see those cracks, you don't really want to cook it much longer than that, because then it's going to get overcooked and it's not going to have that creamy, smooth texture. And you can see it's not jiggly. You don't want to like bang it or anything, but that's firm. It's not jiggling when I poke it. It's really pretty simple. Don't overbake it. Definitely don't take it out before it's done. And you can see my pie, I'm sure you can see it, it's settling down because it was up probably, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch higher than it is now. And it's gonna settle down a little bit more than that, almost back to the level that it was at before you put it in the oven. That's fine. Perfectly fine. You want it to do that. But if you get a great big hole in the center of your pie, it didn't get done. And if you're taking it to somebody's house for Thanksgiving dinner, you're going to have to make another pie. Or if you're making it and you're having people over, you will have to make another one if you get a great big hole in the center of it. It's really, really simple. Top it with some whipped cream and make some fresh homemade whipped cream. If you went to all the trouble to make a real pumpkin pie, make some real cream to go on the top of it instead of using that artificial stuff in the plastic tub. Real cream with real vanilla in it. Oh my gosh. And I have a recipe for butter crust. This pie in a butter crust is just unbelievable. You do want to let this cool completely before you cut it, about 2 hours. Let it cool on a rack at room temperature, and I should have my rack out here, I don't. But put it on a rack and let it cool for about 2 hours before you cut it. It'll come right out of the pan, it'll be set nice and firm, and it'll have a very smooth, creamy texture. And if you spiced it, it'll have a flavor that is just unbelievable. The cloves, though, are very strong, so I don't recommend you use many of them. And some folks, the cinnamon kind of does an indigestion thing. So, you know, keep who you're cooking in mind when you season it or when you add your spices, and don't overdo it. We are getting very, very close to Thanksgiving, and I hope if you've never made a pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving before that you try it this year, because it is easy. And if you don't want to do the bake one, I've got a really good no-bake pumpkin pie. I'll link it up here in the corner at the end of the video, so you can just click on it. It has a lot of flavor. It's I looked at tried several no-bake pie recipes, and I did not like them, and I kind of changed them a little bit and came up with this one, and it is delicious. Everybody who tries it loves it. So if you don't want to bake it, if you're afraid it'll mess up, you can do the no-bake, and I'll post that link. Because we're getting close to Thanksgiving, I want to share 1 Chronicles 16:8 with you. Give thanks unto the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the people. In the comments on this video, of course you can comment about the pie, but leave your blessings. Make known the Lord's deeds among all the people. Share your blessings in the comments on this video. Your big blessings, your little blessings, somebody opening the door for you today when you had your hands full, whatever it is. If you want to pick out a little thing and just share the little things, or if you have a really big thing like someone who has been healed, or maybe you've been healed or something like that, share those blessings. Of course, my blessings are my faith and my salvation. My biggest blessing is Jesus Christ, my Lord. And my second biggest blessing is my family, my children, my grandchildren, the joy that they bring into my life. And when I'm counting my blessings, you are all number 3 for sure. And the way that you have loved me and supported me through the trials of the last year, I mean, I just cannot even thank you enough for your prayers and for all of the kindness that you have shown me. You truly are all blessings, and I thank God for each and every one of you, and I pray for you every night and every morning. So thank you so much for joining us in the Hillbilly Kitchen, for being a part of our family, for loving us, for supporting us, and for praying for us. If you haven't already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave and become a part of our family. Share our videos with your friends and your family. And until next time, remember to put God first.